What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, how you doing, man? What's going on with you?
I'm doing pretty good. Didn't fare so well in DFS today, but gotta watch the Cardinals put an ass whooping on the Titans, so that made up for a lot of things.
That was nice. I did not expect that at all. That's a really good sign for either the Titans are terrible, or they're missing Corey Davis more than we thought they did. I don't know, but I'm pretty happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I don't know if Corey Davis is stopping Chandler Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
That was pretty incredible.
5 sacks. That's insane. All right, well, thanks for joining us, guys. And if this is your first time joining us on the show, we talk about Showdown. And specifically, we're doing Ravens versus Raiders, which this should be interesting, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, who knows what running backs are playing tomorrow night, and that's not just the Ravens either, apparently.
And we're going to get into that. So we're going to do, obviously, a full breakdown, position by position. We're going to talk to you guys about who we like, who we don't like. For example, we're recording this on Sunday night during the Sunday Night Football game. We liked Van Jefferson quite a bit. Now, I didn't think he was going to score like a 50 or 60-yard touchdown. I didn't think that was going to happen.
67 yards.
67 yards. I would have never called that, but I was hoping he'd get at least one touchdown. So let's hope he continues to go off. And, of course, we faded David Montgomery for the most part. And, of course, David Montgomery scores a touchdown at the end of the half there. Anyways, we'll be okay. I hedged. I put him in my cash lineup, so I think we'll be fine. All right, so speaking of main slate today, I got a little therapy session here.
You son of a bitch.
Raheem Mostert.
Should we know better though? Like, I don't. At this point, like, we should just know better than play running backs from San Francisco. As soon as he became chalk, that should have been the sign. Like, look, you can't play them. You just can't do it,
son
dude.
of a bitch.
I had him in 55% of my lineups, and I did really well with my stack choices. I did really well. I had plenty of Kyler and Hopkins. I had plenty of Tyreek Hill and Mahomes. But guess who was in every one of my lineups that could have been valuable? All my crappy stacks didn't have him. So, Mostert, I'll learn my lesson one of these days. I'll learn it one of these days, I swear. All right, so let's talk about this matchup, Ellie. Ravens visiting the Raiders. Be the first time that the Raiders have anybody in the stadium. I think we're starting to see we're seeing home field advantage back, which is kind of interesting. I don't think it's going to – I mean, look, the Ravens are devastated with injury, but I still think the Ravens are a really good team. You got Lamar Jackson. But do the Raiders have a chance here at home? Can they figure this out? The Raiders have a pretty decent team. Their defense is most likely terrible this year again, like it was last year. Talk to me about the general thoughts on this matchup before we get into injuries and breakdowns and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too excited about it either way. It just to be completely transparent, I don't think it's going to be that much of an interesting game, to be honest. Derek Carr is not that exciting anymore. I'm hoping that maybe their offensive line's a little bit better than they were last year, so we can have a little bit more of a competitive game. But even with all the missing pieces on the Ravens in their backfield, I think they're just going to use Lamar Jackson like they were going to prior. Like, I don't even know, man. Like, I don't know how this game's going to go. I just think Lamar Jackson's going to have like 25 carries and 150 rushing yards or something.
Absolutely.
Like, I think all these injuries, they just benefit his fantasy upside more.
100%.
And it's honestly, and that's why I'm like not that excited for it. It's essentially one of those old games where Michael Vick just kind of just runs for his life, I think, is what we're going to see kind of.
We did so many shows last year with all the COVID issues that the Ravens were having, where we had to figure out these issues with backups. And, the one constant for most of it was Lamar. I know that Lamar missed a game. He pooped his pants in one of them, and the other one he had COVID. But we've dealt with this last year with this team. It just seems like they're able to overcome a lot over the past year, you know? So I don't think that that's really too... I think they're going to be okay in this game, especially with Lamar. They have the best player in the game playing for them. You could argue that Waller's, you know, a great player, but I think this just works out really well for Lamar Jackson. And usually I kind of try to get fancy when Lamar is on the slate and I don't put him at captain as much. But I think in this particular game, I think you can put a guy like Lamar at captain and then find your uniqueness in the flex. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're going to be hard pressed to play anybody else at captain. I mean, I'm going to do it just because it's easy leverage, but you know, you start to get to potential output from Lamar Jackson that's really hard to overcome with the rushing. So if he ends up going for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and even if he only throws for 150, 200 and a touchdown or 2, that rushing is going to take care of so many points that it's going to be really difficult to overcome in the captain spot. So, I think we're going to have to look for some other value, because I think they priced up a lot of these other players that you would expect to get cheaper because of the injuries they happen so early on in the week. So you're going to have to get creative so that Lamar Jackson isn't the chalkiest player on your team. But to your point, I just don't know how you're going to get off of him at captain.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's going to touch the ball so much. He's going to be running the ball so much in this particular game. By the way, Matt Stafford just threw a 56-yard touchdown to Cooper Kupp. So there you go.
Jesus.
All right. So let's move on to the injuries for this game. Hopefully you guys can read that. Pretty much we all know about the Ravens injuries at this point. We know that their cornerbacks are affected. Mainly their running back situation is affected. But one thing to really talk about here, but before we did the show, I got news that Josh Jacobs was downgraded to questionable, which that's never a good thing. The day before, he was limited. Now it says he is limited with a toe injury here on the injury report, but the alert I got was he was downgraded to questionable for illness. So to me, that, I don't know, stomach flu. It's most likely not COVID, because if it was, he would already be out at this point if he tested positive. So with him being questionable, obviously we need to wait until inactives are released tomorrow, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is before lock. But I'm not too confident. If he's really sick and he's actually questionable at this point, I'm not going to be too confident playing Jacobs. So real quick, let's talk about the Raiders. Let's talk about Josh Jacobs' injury. Did you like Josh Jacobs to start? And what does this do for you leading up to tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs is always in a good position to get some love from a fantasy perspective. I just think this probably isn't the best matchup for him. The Ravens have such a propensity to run the ball that they tend to dominate in the time of possession category. And Josh Jacobs is a guy who wants to get 20, 25 touches. So I think that those minutes swaying more towards Baltimore is going to impact his overall usability in this game in general. So that Q tag popping up just kind of gives him a slight downgrade for me. I mean, obviously, if he plays, he's a great option. He does have the ability to go carry the ball for 20 yards or 20 carries, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, I just don't know if that opportunity is fully going to be there against the Ravens, especially with their injuries in the backfield. They're going to continue they're going to want to dominate the ball as much as they can. So I don't know. I think that takes away from Josh Jacobs' upside, even if he does play. If
he's out tomorrow, man, it's going to be a shit show trying to build lineups.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that.
Yeah, I like Kenyon Drake because, dude, he only needs the ball a couple of times. He can break away.
And if he's out, obviously Kenyon Drake is in a smash spot. But Kenyon Drake's at 7,200. you know?
Right.
And Josh Jacobs at 8,400. Clearly, Josh Jacobs is the number one guy. I don't know why everybody was so down on him for season long in best ball. His rankings were pretty low. I mean, this guy can change the game in one play. You put the ball in his hands, he can absolutely score. He's good out of the backfield receiving, but they brought in Kenyon Drake for a reason. Now, I don't know why. Internally, I'm not really sure why. Maybe they're not confident in Josh Jacobs, and maybe they're not confident that he can stay healthy the whole year. Obviously.
I'm pretty sure they played together at Alabama.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. So, anyways, keep an eye on that. Now, obviously, let's get into quickly. We all have been following the news. We all know that Gus Edwards is out. We all know that Justice Hill was out earlier. We all know about J.K. Dobbins. So now we're down to Tyson Williams. And at this point, he's in a smash spot. He's at 6,800. I think you just got to play him all around because he's really the only guy in this entire offense that's been with the team. Yeah. He was on the practice squad last year. He really didn't. He might have been active for 1 or 2 games last season. He didn't really see the field, but he's been with the team for all last year through training camp this year. He even if he's not very good, he knows where to go. He knows the offense. He knows on this play you go there. And I think with some of the other players on this team so far, I know with running back it's a little bit easier to adjust, but I don't care who you are. If you come in with 3 or 4 days off the streets like some of these guys have, you're either not going to be in shape enough, or you're just not going to know what to do. You're not going to know the offense well enough. So we obviously know about Latavius Murray, which to me it has the highest upside, but he was the guy that was brought in last. So you're talking about what, 3 days maybe he's been on this team that he's been signed, something like that. We got Devontae Freeman, who they brought in for a tryout earlier on, and they already knew what he was all about. They signed him immediately. Now, we know about Lev Bell. Lev Bell was on the practice squad, and now I don't think all these guys are going to be active on game day. So just keep an eye out for that. I have a feeling that Lev Bell may not be active, so we'll have to see. I could be completely wrong, and maybe Freeman, and who knows who it's going to be. But for sure, Tyson Williams is going to be the guy, unless shit hits the fan. But I think he's going to be. I'm confident that he's going to be the guy that sees most of the carries tomorrow. And even a guy like Trenton Cannon, which I think you can actually try not starting, but you can put him into your lineups at $1,400 as just a flyer. He was signed like 2 weeks ago, I think, or like a week and a half ago. He's barely been with the team. There's only one running back that's been with the team. That's Tyson Williams. I'm confident that he'll be the guy who actually sees some snaps. So real quick before we get into this breakdown, what do you think about the Ravens backfield? What jumps out to you? Who do you think will be the number 2 guy? Will it be Murray or Freeman?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do a number 2 guy. I think you could end up with some weird shit like a DuVernay or something, getting some rotations back there and some weird pistol type stuff. Yeah. Right. I mean, look, you're right. Latavius Murray is probably the most game ready, but I'd be surprised if he's active tomorrow. I mean, it's been like 3 days. I think there's still like a waiver process. Even then, like, isn't there like COVID protocol you have to
possibly
pass?
Yeah.
Who knows? Even then, like, he's been with the team 3 days. Like, I get it. You just power eye run up the 2 gap. Like, I get it, but I don't think that's happening. I think Tyson Williams is going to be the number 2 guy. And I say number 2 because Lamar Jackson's going to be the number 1. And I just don't know what else you're going to do. And yeah, I think you can jam in some Tyson Williams, but I think I also think people are going to be all over him, so I think there's going to be some other opportunities in the pass catchers.
I think if you grabbed him in like season long or best ball, you're loving life right now, at least for this week. But because this game was an island game and it wasn't on the main slate, and they hadn't released salaries before all this news came out, it doesn't really affect things too much. I mean, he is 6,800 and he's the starting running back, so there is that,
right?
But we just don't know anything about him. He might. Exactly. We just don't know anything about him. So I want to wait to see what ownership kind of comes in at tomorrow, and kind of see what people are projecting his ownership at. If he's just way over, I might find another guy to kind of go heavy on tomorrow. Yeah. So real quick, let's just look at the bird's eye view of this matchup here. Obviously, they're playing in Vegas. Baltimore's still favored, -202. It looks like it's a -4 spread, and the total is at 50.5. That's not a bad total. Vegas just doesn't play defense very well. So Baltimore on the road with how injured they are. What does that say about Vegas? Vegas, what do they think about the Raiders? You know what I mean? They must think they suck.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I still think Baltimore's a really good team, right? I think their running backs have success off of Lamar Jackson. That piece is still constant. And while we're talking about the running backs, we're ignoring that this is probably the best secondary in the NFL on the Baltimore side of the ball.
Yeah.
They did lose Marcus Peters, but they still have Jimmy Smith and Marlon Humphreys, and then their safeties aren't anything to gawk at either. So there's still a lot that you have to deal with to beat the Baltimore team, and Las Vegas is still a bunch of unknowns. Like, did you hear that they tried to trade back for Khalil Mack of the offseason? I still think there's a little bit of confusion as to what they're actually doing, but John Gruden's smarter than me, so maybe it's all just smoke and mirrors, and his haircut will pull it off. But I still think Baltimore is just a better team all around. And again, a quality secondary, quality defense can make up for so many miscues on offense that I just think Lamar is going to have a couple extra opportunities to get his team in the game if they even do struggle.
There's no doubt that Lamar will get 90% of the goal line carries in this game. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They're not passing. They're just gonna find a way to get him the ball on the goal line. All right, let's get into this breakdown here. Break it down. All right, guys. So stick with us. We're gonna go position by position, talk about salaries. This is obviously for Draftkings. If you're on FanDuel, I'm sorry. Let's just get right into this. Lamar Jackson, 12.4K.
Play him.
Just play him. I mean, he should be in 100% of your lineups, unless you're in the Millie Maker and you think he can shit himself again, and you want to put in, I don't know, who's the backup now? Is it Trace McSorley at this point?
I'm pretty sure they have it listed as Gus Edwards because they're so confident.
Tyler Huntley. Yeah, Tyler Huntley actually is. I think is the backup. I think Trace McSorley's on the practice squad. Anyways, there's no reason for us to waste time talking about that. There's really no reason why you shouldn't play Lamar Jackson in every single one of your lineups. He's going to touch the ball. Obviously, he's the quarterback. He's touching the ball every time, but he's also a running back. So just put him in. The question is how much do you put him at captain and how much do you put him in the flex? I think you should have a healthy dose of both. Now, at 12.4K, putting him in at captain might be a little tough to kind of get comfortable in the flex, but there are so many question marks in this game, and there's a lot of value, in mid-range value, to talk about, that I think you can get away with it. Now, when it comes to Derek Carr at 9,800, he is the same price as Andy Dalton. I think that's insane. I don't think there's a single person watching this that would think that Derek Carr is equal to or worse than Andy Dalton. Do you agree with that? I think we all can agree that Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Andy Dalton.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, look, obviously it's a different slate, but at 9,800, I think you can plug him in quite a bit because there's a chance that this team is going to be passing a lot. I think Derek Carr is going to be throwing the ball quite a bit in this game. I mean, last year, let's look at some of his attempts last year. 38, 34, 45, 47, 34. Anyways, the point is he's going to be slinging the ball, especially if they're down by a few touchdowns in the second half. I think at 9,800, he's a steal. And I think if he comes in around 35% owned, I'm going to go heavily over the field. What are your thoughts on Carr? Am I going overboard with him?
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, if you're going to have a bunch of Lamar Jackson at captain, you're probably going to have to think about fading Derek Carr. But if you're throwing Lamar in a flex, I really like Derek Carr. Again, I think this is going to be a little bit more condensed game on offense for the Raiders. So I think they're going to have to get going through the air. If they start falling behind against Lamar Jackson's run game, it's going to make it very difficult for them to stay in the game because we know that they can convert. So Derek Carr is going to need to throw the ball for them to stay competitive. And I definitely think that he's in a spot to probably hit like 270 and 2 touchdowns. I don't think that's too hard to do for him.
I agree. I think they're going to lose this game. I think the Raiders are. But you never know. I mean, we've seen them surprise us Last year they surprised us a few times on some of these island games. And I think if any team can do it, I think it's the Raiders. I think it's Derek Carr. They really have nothing to lose. They're underdogs. They're coming in against a team who is severely injured, and we just don't know what they're up to when it comes to mentally the Ravens. So I think they can actually keep this game closer, but I'm leaning more towards my game scripts being, Lamar with a couple touchdowns up by, maybe 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and Derek Carr just slinging the ball the entire second half. I think that's where I'm going to kind of focus my storylines when it comes to my lineups. I mean, if you look at last year, he wasn't super impressive, but he had a few I wouldn't call them great games, but he had a few decent games. 35 points, 29 points, 26 points. If he scores you 26 points in this game, he's going to be in the optimal lineup. Don't you agree? I don't think you can fade him unless he has a floor type game, one of those red type games.
I think he's in the optimal if he has 20, 21, to be honest. I mean,
all right, let's move over to running backs, and let's focus in on the Raiders here, right? We're going to spend a couple minutes on this Baltimore backfield trying to decipher this. But the only thing really to talk about here, and in fact, now that Josh Jacobs is, not Richard, but Ingold. So now that Josh Jacobs may be out this game, I don't know, but at 8.4K, you got Kenyon Drake at 7.2K. Originally, before this news came out, I was going to fade. When it came to our fades, I was going to fade Kenyon Drake because he's just a little too expensive for a backup running back, in my opinion. But now I'm obviously going to have to leave him with a decent amount of exposure. I'm going to have to either match or go over the field with him tomorrow. But if Josh Jacobs is out, any reason to think about Peyton Barber or any of these other guys? How are you handling the backfield here? And will we even need to worry about the backfield? Are they just going to be down by too many points?
Yeah, I'm not really going to get too deep into the backfield here. I mean, if Josh Jacob plays, nobody else is viable, and that includes Kenyon Drake. You might be able to get a little bit of Kenyon Drake for some, to get contrarian, and there's a good chance he could see the field 40% of the time. Josh Jacobs is a volume guy, though. He will be on the field for a very, very large amount of the snaps. And next time they play, maybe I'll have that kind of information ready. But if he doesn't play, I still think Kenyon Drake can see the field for the whole time. You might get a little bit of Peyton Barber. I do know that I think I remember John Gruden getting him some run, but
yeah, he did last year.
Ingold and Richard, those guys are just going to be kind of like barn buster plays. They'll come in for
Richard's
a couple of
IR.
snaps. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, he's not even updated on mine then. But yeah, I mean, it probably don't even need to talk about any of those guys. I'm not really going to play them.
So if Jacobs plays, we've got Drake, the only other guy I think about, and I might go under the field on him. If Josh Jacobs is out, heavy on Drake most likely, depending on what his ownership comes in at, and sprinkle in a little bit of Peyton Barber because Gruden did use him last year. A little bit. Let's see.
I mean, and if Kenyon Drake gets chalky because Jacob's out, I mean, that might also be a trap too. Like, again, Kenyon Drake, he needs to get open space and in the open field. He's a good player, but I also I don't know that he's going to have enough opportunity in this situation, even with Jacobs potentially being out. If they're down by 10 points, they're not going to be able to run that much.
Yeah. Peyton Barber is a goal line type guy. He had 4 touchdowns last year, 2 in one game, week 1. So if Peyton Barber does play, you got to at least consider him at 2,000. But I'm, in a couple of lineups. That is if Josh Jacobs is out. I'm not considering anybody else if Josh Jacobs plays. All right, so let's move on to Baltimore here. So like I said, we have Tyson Williams at 6,800. You've got Latavius Murray, fresh off the waiver wire. Signed a few days ago at 6,200. Lev Bell signed to the practice squad. Don't know if he'll be active. If I had to take a bet, I would say that Lev Bell is going to be the guy that's inactive, maybe even Freeman. I think Latavius Murray is still a solid running back. The only reason why he got released from the Saints was I think they had, they're in cap hell, and Tony Jones seemed to maybe have a good camp, so maybe they just didn't need him. They asked him to take a pay cut, and he said no, because why would you? So Latavius Murray is still a guy that could even start in this league for some teams. He's like a fringe starter. Yeah. So as long as it's just I don't know what's going to happen with Latavius Murray. Might not see the field, just like Sony Michel. I don't think Sony Michel tonight in Rams games has seen the field, has he? Because I haven't seen him.
No, he hasn't.
And Michel's been on the team for a lot longer. So you're talking about a guy like Latavius Murray coming in. I might have 0 shares of Latavius Murray. I might have 0 shares of Bell. I might have 0 shares of Freeman. The one guy I might have is Trenton Cannon as like a 1 or 2 off. Like maybe like I have him in 2 or 3 lineups out of like 80, you know?
Did Justin Fields just catch a touchdown?
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, it looks like it. What the hell? All right.
Justin Fields. Oh, no, he ran it in.
He ran it in?
Yeah, he ran it in. Wow, interesting. Well, this game's a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be.
That's going to ruin the DFS slate.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, I have him in 2 lineups, so maybe that'll help. All right, so Tyson Williams at 6,800 for a starting running back. Like I said in the intro, we're going to have to wait to see ownership, but I'm not scared to put him in quite a bit of lineups and go over the field with him. Talk to me about your thoughts on this clusterfuck that is the Baltimore running back situation. Is it to me? It's pretty clear cut. I'm not going to take a risk on any of these guys that just got signed. I think they come into play next week or the week after, but not this week.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. I mean I'm going to get some Tyson Williams depending on how my roster goes, just because 68 is a little bit expensive, but. You're going to have some exposure. And even then, like guys like Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Trenton Cannon, I mean, they're all fairly risky. I mean, Trenton Cannon at 1,400 is probably the less risky just because he's at 1,400. But I don't think I want any of those guys. I mean, Latavius Murray is going from an offense that had that he was the backup to Alvin Kamara, and the quarterback was Drew Brees, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I mean, you have quite possibly the slowest quarterback in the NFL since Peyton Manning. So, like,
he might be slower than Peyton Manning, dude.
Yeah, dude. I mean, even Tom Brady's out there running like a 5.6 40, right? So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like Latavius Murray, that's going to change your entire momentum as a running back, right? Like coming out of your stances, being at the right spot to receive a handoff. If your quarterback runs a 4.1 40, like you're going to get plowed over if you're not in the right spot. So I think that's really going to impact his ability to play on Sunday. So I think you have to get a bunch of Tyson Williams, and when we get to some of these other position players, we're going to have to find a way to be creative. These guys are going to be creative. We've seen crazy shit from the Baltimore team before, and I think we're going to get some odd stuff from guys like DuVernay. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I don't think I'm going to have any of these guys. But one last thing, Patrick Ricard at $200. Who knows? He's a fullback, tight end type person,
a fullback goal line RPO from Lamar. I think he's the kind of guy who gets that handoff.
Right. And it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, you got to get creative.
If a $200 guy scores a touchdown, most likely, unless there's multiple $200 guys that score a touchdown, he's going to be in the winning lineup, most likely, especially with a guy like, 12.8K or whatever he was, like Lamar at captain. You're just going to need to find that value. All right. So DuVernay is a nice segue over to wide receivers. We'll get Vegas's wide receivers here in a minute. But let's start with Baltimore. Another, there's tons of injuries here as well. So Rashad Bateman is on the IR. Miles Boykin is on the IR. Now those guys could come back, I think, in week 4. But for now, there's just not a lot of options. There really isn't. You've got Sammy Watkins, who's about 63 years old. I still think that Sammy Watkins can make an impact. We've seen him come up big in the playoffs recently, the past few years with the Chiefs. I'm not loving him at that 5,200 price tag. Marquise Brown at 7,600. We know he's hot and cold. I think a guy like Marquise Brown is more of a captain only option in this game potentially, because he's the kind of guy that can go off for a 75-yard touchdown and, multiple of those. You see the 22 points, the 21 points. Besides that, he's just not really doing much. He's very, very hot and cold. But I paired a lot of him. He's the one consistent guy on this team. Sammy Watkins is new. They lost Willie Snead to the Raiders, which we'll talk to in about a second here. But DuVernay to me is my favorite option here at 2,600. It's interesting. You and I didn't talk about any of this before we got on this show. And to me, DuVernay was exactly what you were saying with the gadget plays, the handoff, the end arounds, random screens, shovel passes. I think he's going to be getting a lot of those options this time. Not only is he great in the return game, but they're trying to work him in at receiver. This is a devastated receiving core. And I think DuVernay is going to be the guy who gets a lot of handoffs, a lot of gadget plays. And at 2,600, I might just go all in on him. I'm going to be really risky and potentially go in on him very, very heavy because I don't think a lot of people are going to play him tomorrow. So thoughts on Brown, Watkins, DuVernay. We'll talk about some of these other guys here in a second, but are you gonna go heavy on this or are you going to stick with the running game?
No, I'm not going to stick with the running game. I like Marquise Brown a lot. Spoiler alert, I like Mark Andrews too. But I mean, those are really the two best players left on this team. Now that Dobbins and even Gus Edwards, I thought Gus Edwards was probably slightly ahead of those two.
He was going to have a great year, man.
Yeah, dude, I was excited for Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins too. But anyways, seriously though, what are they practicing on? Like, are they practicing on the streets of Baltimore? Like
NFL street.
Yeah, know, bro. Man. Like, I mean, dude, like they're running through potholes. I don't understand how you're letting that happen. But anyways,
it's either the training staff or they're playing like on a baseball field. I don't know what else to say.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But no, dude, I like Marquise Brown. I'm interested to see how Sammy Watkins does in this offense. I kind of feel bad for the guy. Like, he's been a bust since he came out for the most part, and he's had opportunities and he's had flashes of pretty awesomeness. And I don't think he's done yet. I think he has the ability to be a number 1, number 2 receiver. And I'm just interested, and I'm hoping he does well in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But with that said, we all know his upside, but we also know his downside. He's a high variance player. And my exposure will probably be dictated by what the ownership projections start coming in at.
Yeah.
Devin DuVernay, man. I think the easiest way to say why I want to play him is to compare him to Van Jefferson tonight. At a certain point, like if you just start looking at the rosters, honestly, allocate 60 plays. Okay, is this person going to be able to play all 60 plays? At some point, you're going to have a guy like Devin DuVernay, even James Prochet, or what these other random wide receivers. They're going to have to play 15 snaps. DuVernay is probably going to have to play 35, 40 because he's going to have, 5 to 6 plays on special teams. So these are things you got to consider when you're looking at getting different in Showdown. Right, find a guy who's low owned, but who's going to see the field. You might get screwed like Cameron Brate did to us the other night. But if you're on the field for 15 to 20 plays, that's better opportunity than trying to play Tylan Wallace because you're hoping that his 1% is going to get him a touchdown on his one play.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at, and I am going to have a decent amount of exposure. He's too cheap too, 2,600. It's not that
super
risky.
Cheap, and he touches the ball a lot. I mean, look, it's a low percentage chance that he takes one to the house on a kickoff or a punt or whatever. But the ball is in his hands, and he's a dynamic player. If he's touching the ball, he has a chance to score. He has a chance to score any points. Some of these other guys like Proche or Wallace, they might not even see the ball at all. Right. They might not touch the ball. So I'd rather get a guy who will have the ball in his hands. Speaking of those guys, they're fourth and fifth string, potentially third string, depending on how much DuVernay is actually lining up as a receiver. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. They've, obviously this week, the Ravens know that they're kind of screwed in that department, so they might be, He might be a Cordell Patterson type guy in this game, Devin DuVernay. So maybe Prosh and Wallace is a 3 and 4 option. And if that's the case, like we saw tonight with what's his bucket, Marquise Goodwin, he was a third string option. And Marquise Goodwin's been getting receptions and getting targets. So I would say consider Prosh and Wallace for like one lineup. Obviously, don't put them in the same lineup, but maybe get them in one lineup, out of 20 if you're doing it.
I mean, maybe even then, like if you're allocating a certain amount of plays to both guys, there is a world. I mean, Prosh, let's see, he's $200, dude. If he has 2 catches for 18 yards, he's fine. And if Devin DuVernay has a touchdown and 25 yards, then he paid off 2,600. That may be the way you're able to play Lamar Jackson and captain. And who are you coming off of at that point, right? Like at that point, you probably get Derek Carr and Ruggs and Waller.
So according to this news, actually, it looks like Prosh may be the kick returner. July 31st is when they said this. So I don't know how accurate that is now. I haven't gone back and watched preseason games for Baltimore yet. I probably won't, but just keep an eye on him and do a little bit of your own research on these, 4th, 5th string guys. Cause I think there is a chance that at $200, they can get a couple of receptions and really help you fit in Lamar at captain. All right. Yep. So let's move over to the other side here. Let's move over to Vegas. So there's been a lot of hype with Bryan Edwards this year at 5,600. On the depth chart, he's the number 1 guy. And I think, he's a big dude. He's kind of like Anquan Bolden looking guy. And I think he is the clear number 1 target on this team as of now. I'm really excited to kind of see what he does this year and see this first game, how they handle him. Because in preseason, he got a lot of hype. And you saw it in a lot of these fantasy drafts. He wasn't ranked super high, but every once in a while, best ball in season-long drafts, you'd see him taken way early because I think people are really, really high on him. But to me, the guy I really, really want to focus on is Henry Ruggs. Similar to Hollywood Brown, Henry Ruggs has that 3 or 4 receptions for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns type output that I would like to throw in at captain quite a bit. Maybe focus him on captain and sort of fade him a little bit in the slot because it's either all or nothing for a guy like Ruggs and a guy like Marquise Brown. You obviously have, and he's cheaper, much cheaper than Bryan Edwards by $600. You got Hunter Renfrow at 2.8K, Zay Jones, who's projected for nothing, and you got Willie Snead switching sides. Narrative alert: Willie Snead on Vegas playing Baltimore at 1,200. So thoughts? They're really the only guys to talk about here are Edwards, Ruggs, and maybe Renfrow. Thoughts on Edwards and Ruggs, and who do you kind of favor out of those?
I guess I favor Ruggs. I think Bryan Edwards is probably going to end up with Marlon Humphrey, which isn't a good matchup. But Ruggs is probably going to end up with Jimmy Smith, which might be a little bit better of a matchup. Just because Jimmy Smith's getting old and Henry Ruggs is pretty young and athletic. So I think, he gets a slight edge there. But I think the Marcus Peters injury, I think that benefits Hunter Renfrow the most. I believe Peters was playing in the slot. That means, Hunter Renfrow is going to have a 4th-stringer, or at the very least, a guy who's not Marcus Peters covering him. Excuse me. So I think Hunter Renfrow becomes really interesting at 2,800, especially with that matchup and the matchup that Edwards and Ruggs are probably going to have to see. And then if you start lining him up opposite of Darren Waller, I think it could open up a lot of underneath routes for Bryan Edwards and Hunter Ruggs to maybe end up getting a little bit more opportunity. So I'm really going to be kind of interested in Hunter Renfrow, and he might be kind of my favorite guy. But just from like a raw points perspective, I think I'd lean more towards Henry Ruggs. But Hunter Renfrow might be a little bit more important to me in GPP. The rest of these guys, I don't think I'm going to touch. I don't need Zay Jones, Willie Snead, David Moore. Again, I think they have enough depth that they're random spots at tight end, and then the random running backs like Jalen Richard and Alec Conklin, whatever the hell his name is. Alec Ogletree. What was the other dude?
Ingold.
Alec Ingold.
He's a fullback.
Yeah, like,
He's a fullback.
yeah. Why would I remember that? Like him and Foster Moreau, those three guys are probably, combined for a total of 13 or 14 plays and do something that ruins everything for everyone.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm not gonna. They're gonna be out there, and that's why I don't think you need to get too much exposure to guys like Zay Jones or Willie Snead. But now that I say that, we've seen Willie Snead catch 2 touchdown passes in Showdown Slate before.
Yeah, he has.
But this isn't the Ravens offense though, so that is something to keep in mind, right?
Yeah.
They have Hunter Renfrow, who's like a professional Willie Snead, I guess. I don't know. That means
a lighter version of Willie Snead.
No, no. I mean, like all he's ever done is play that slot role. I think Willie Snead's kind of played other roles before. I probably should have said that a lot differently now that I think about it. But anyways, that's what I mean. I like Hunter Renfrow, Henry Ruggs, and I don't know, man. I've never seen Brian Edwards play, so we'll see.
I think Edwards has a shot to be one of these 8 reception, 95 yards and a touchdown or 2 kind of guy. We just got to see. We just don't know. Like, I don't know how Edwards, this is his second year. He could take on that role, or he could just shit the bed. The interesting thing with both of these teams are kind of similar. Like, their receivers are just kind of iffy, and their tight ends are solid. So let's move over to tight ends. Darren Waller is 10.8K. It's going to be hard to fit some of these guys that we know are going to have good games in all together. Now, Darren Waller at 10.8K is also a good captain option because you're paying down about $2,000 less. At $2,000 less, and you could fit in a little bit middle range guys in the flex a little bit. But I know you're heavy on. I know you love your tight ends at captain on occasion. Darren Waller is the man on this team. He's going to see the ball the most. I believe he just got a contract, possibly a contract extension. Either way, he's going to get paid, or he already got paid. So Waller, you got to just fit him into most of your lineups, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's going to be Derek Carr's favorite target, and he should be. He's incredibly athletic, and he's a freak out there, man. He's up there with Kittle and Kelsey.
I think he's a solid number 3 tight end in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, at 10.8K, he's probably going to be the highest scoring player on the Raiders, and it's going to be hard to come off of him. And again, like you getting him at captain, you're going to save a little bit of money so that you can kind of get into some other spots. And I think it's going to be a little bit more contrarian, just because like it's such an obvious choice to play Lamar at captain.
Yeah,
that I don't know if you need to get too crazy on some of these other guys that you can put in the captain spot.
We don't have ownership, obviously. This is the night before. But if I had to guess right now what Lamar's ownership would be at captain in like the big tournament tomorrow, I'm going to say like 30% or more. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I could see it easily getting to like 40%.
Yeah, even 40. Which at that point, look, you're going to have to get real crazy. You're going to have to get Alec Ingold, and you're going to have to get Willie Snead. You're going to have to get one of these sub 5% owned guys, multiple in there, to even make it worth it. Now, if you're running cash, obviously, just plug him in a captain. Plug Lamar in a captain. Or single entry even. But you're doing a 20 max or 150 max with over 100,000 entries. You're going to have to be careful with that kind of stuff. So just wait for ownership to come in. So Foster Moreau at 1,000, he's the kind of guy that, can score you a touchdown or 2 throughout a season. You see last year he scored 2 touchdowns. He had an 11-point game and he had a 10-point game. If he has an 11-point game in this game at 1,000 points, most likely going to be in the optimal. I might just throw him in like 2 or 3 lineups, I think. He's one of those guys where you kind of you adjust his projection a little bit and you max his exposure out. So you force him into like 2 or 3 lineups, because otherwise he's probably not going to make any lineups. So you boost his projection and you max out you cap him at like 10% or whatever in your 20 max. And that'll get him in a few lineups. But I'm not really into him at all. And you see his projections like around 1 point or something. So, right? I mean, anything else to talk about with Foster Moreau?
No, not at all.
Okay. Mark Andrews, he's at 9,000. Now, does he really deserve to be? What is the difference here between those guys? 1.8K cheaper than Waller?
Nope, not on this slate. Any other time, I'd be like, yeah, maybe. But without any running backs, I think Mark Andrews gets a pretty significant boost. I think they could easily just switch into like a play action. That random goal line play action play
Yeah.
on Madden, like the only passing play that there
And
is
goal
in that
line,
playbook.
yeah.
They could easily be running shit like that all night tomorrow night, right? Like we could see some college offense where they've got Mark Andrews in the backfield running all kinds of crazy crap, man. And I think it benefits Mark Andrews. I think it's going to benefit the three best best players on the offense: Hollywood, Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson. Like to me, it just
those are the guys.
You're going to have to funnel through there and see what you have at these other positions because they haven't played together either. Like these injuries just happened.
Yeah.
So Tyson Williams could be an absolute stud, but if the dude can't block, like we might have to have Le'Veon Bell play just because of his blocking ability, right? So there's question marks here, and there's really not one next to Mark Andrews. I mean, we know what he's capable of. We know what he's probably going to do. And even a floor for him is probably like 8 or 9 fantasy points. You know what I mean?
Where'd you find that pass blocking ranking for running backs? What site did you find that on? Can you look up Latavius Murray? Because that could, because I specifically remember seeing Latavius Murray in on third downs sometimes, picking up blocks with Kamara running around like in the slot. He could be the guy. Like, it's a very good point. He could be the guy that's in on third down, even though he's not necessarily a pass catching back, just for blocking on some of these third and longs. So another thing to look at too is Eric Tomlinson. We got Nick Boyle is on IR. So Nick Boyle usually was that second tight end. They're running a lot of 2 tight end packages, which this team probably will if they're running the ball quite a bit. You might see Eric Tomlinson was on the Jets last year, I believe, or was on the Jets at one point. He's at $800. It's just worth finding some of these guys that may have a chance to catch 2 balls and maybe get a goal line target in the end zone. $800 worth a shot. Don't know anything about any of these other guys. I'm not going to touch them. The only guy I might get one lineup with Eric Tomlinson just to be safe, but that's just me. So anything else to add here, Ellie? If you're not still looking up that information.
No, I'm trying to figure this out, man, because I was able to Google that one and David Montgomery came up, but
okay, never mind. We'll look into it. We'll look into it and see in the Discord. Hit us up in our Discord. So we got Justin Tucker, who I never mind playing Justin Tucker because he's one of these guys that he's going to make most of his field goals and he's got a solid leg. But at $4,000, it's a little much. But one reason to play a kicker would be, this team just can't jam it in. They're on the 15-yard line. They can't pass the ball in the red zone. They can't run the ball. And maybe Vegas just figures out a way to stop the option, to stop Lamar. And if that's the case, Justin Tucker can get you 3 or 4, 5 field goals in addition to a couple extra points. So I usually don't like playing kickers, but in this particular game, I think it's an opportunity to play some kickers simply because of the fact that there's not a dominant wide receiver. There's not a Devontae Adams. There's not a Hopkins like we saw in the red zone today for the Cardinals. So in that case, I know that there's some solid tight ends, but in that case, I wouldn't mind playing a little bit of these kickers. They are a little bit priced up. Any interest in kickers, Ellie?
Yeah, I don't mind getting a little bit of them, especially with, Justin Tucker's one of the better offensive guys they can lean on the Baltimore side of the ball. So if they do stall out, he does give them a little bit of ability to, make an attempt on a 60-yard field goal, for example.
Yeah.
And those will add up to points pretty quickly. So those are things you want to account for in a situation like this where there's just question marks with what we're going to see from the Baltimore offense. It's very possible they have a big play and they end up getting within field goal range and then they stall out because of the inconsistency with the rotations and the reps that they've had. So I think that gives Justin Tucker a slight boost, and where I may not be paying attention to kickers and other showdowns, I am a little bit tonight.
Yeah.
Now Dan Carlson, I don't know. I don't know how much I'll really get of him. If I'm going to pay for a kicker, I may as well pay 400 more and get Justin Tucker. But now that I say that, Daniel Carlson could be in the same situation, right? The Ravens are a really good defense, and they could be a bend but don't break type defense this year. So, if the Raiders stall out, there's a good chance that they could be kicking the field goals too. But again, it's still about a 4-point spread. So I think that implies that a field goal is probably not going to get it done. So you could lose out on your Dan Carlson in the second half because Las Vegas is trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind when you're game scripting that out.
All right, let's move over to defense here. Ravens, Raiders, obviously 4,800 or 4,600 for Ravens, 3,000 for Raiders. Any reason to consider the Raiders in this game like a surprise defensive output from them, considering the fact that the Ravens are a bit injured here? Or are you just sticking with a little bit of Ravens defense? Or are you going a lot of Ravens defense?
I don't know. I'm going to go too much defense in this. The Ravens are a little bit expensive, but they do have the potential to shut Las Vegas down. I just don't know, if they're going to have the scoring upside, which is kind of what you need if you're going to be running them. And then, no, I don't have any interest in the Raiders either. I don't think that they're going to be able to stop the run. It just isn't a good opportunity for them. So I don't really want to play them at all, man.
It's a 50 points, total.
Yeah.
I'm more likely not to play them at all. I just don't like playing defensive anyways.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of luck. It really is. You random fumble for a touchdown. That's kind of what it ends up being. All right.
Right. Like, dude, the Cardinals defense ended up as the optimal today.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. Like, nobody's going to tell you that they thought the Cardinals defense was going to be the optimal
against Tennessee
today.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's move over to our fate of the night.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
Elaborate, Ellie.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm not trying to get too crazy with this. I'm going to stick with guys like Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown, Lamar Jackson. Those are going to be my core. And then, I might have a little bit of exposure to Tyson Williams and, like Devin DuVernay. I'm not going to get weird. I'm not going to start playing these random dudes. I just don't know how they're going to fit into the offense. So I'm going to keep it tight and focus on the guys that we know are professional athletes and on NFL teams. Like, I don't want to be a dick, dude, but like Tyson Williams was the third running back for a reason, right? Like,
He was actually the fourth. He was practice squad.
Right. Like, I get, yeah, dude, that's right. Because there was another
Justice
guy,
Hill.
right?
Yeah, Justice Hill.
Yeah, Justice Hill. Yeah, right. Like, that's my point. Like, I get it. Like, I do get it. And I hope the guy's successful. But at the end of the day, he was still a practice squad guy. And
well, I will actually correct you a little bit, actually. Sorry. I believe I read some articles that he was in competition with Justice Hill for that third spot. So, yes, you are right. He was third, but you're basically talking about a practice squad guy now starting.
Yeah, and like, dude, I mean, it's the NFL. I don't want to be over dramatic here, but it's just one of those things. Like, odds are he's not going to make it. Like, he's not going to do well, and you're going to have some exposure just because the amount of time that he's going to be on the field. But even then, like I'm shying away from those particular positions because I don't know how it's going to work out. I just don't.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I'm choosing Josh Jacobs simply because I don't know about his status tomorrow, and if he really is sick, he's not Michael Jordan. It's not going to be a flu game. He's not going to come out and ball. I don't think it's a little bit different with football. I'm just going to wait to see what people are saying, but it always worries me with running backs when they're questionable. I just don't know what's going to happen. They could easily sit him on the bench. It's game one. Why risk him anymore? Just sit him on the bench. So that worries me a little bit. I would say if there are reports that he's fully healthy, that it was precaution, then yeah, I might go heavy on him, especially if his ownership dips because of the Q tag. But I'm going to be very, 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 very careful up until we see inactives and we see what's going on tomorrow before I really start building my lineups, because I don't know what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs.
It's just going to be hard too, man. I mean, I really expect Lamar Jackson to be running the ball a lot. I mean, he could easily have 15 carries, and that just takes away from the amount of opportunities that Jacobs is going to have to run the ball. I mean, you don't stack, like, if the Vikings and Titans are playing each other on Sunday, you don't stack Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very similar situation to me. And I get that this is showdown. You got to get weird and sometimes do stuff that's negatively correlated, but this isn't one of those things, I don't think.
Yeah. All right. So, Denny Green, let's take us into our captain choice.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
We're crowning their ass on DraftKings. This is our favorite.
You're getting bold, man. That's a bold
I know.
move.
You know me, man. You know me. You know that I had 20% Van Jefferson at captain tonight. I'm not scared to go crazy at captain, but there's really no reason to, in my opinion, tonight.
Yeah.
With Lamar, Waller will be my second highest owned captain most likely, and I'll get a little bit weird with with 2 or 3 here and there with some of these random guys like Hollywood Brown, Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, and even Mark Andrews, obviously. I'm going to spread out quite a bit, but most of my lineups are going to be Lamar with 2 5% owned guys. And I'm going to force in a rule that punts on those last 2 positions, because I think that the odds of Lamar being the highest scoring player in this game are incredibly high. Don't you think?
Yeah, but I think you're right, because just even of another level, right? Like, I think the gap between him and the second highest player is also incredibly large.
Yes.
And that 1.5 times points, like, that's a lot to overcome. If Lamar Jackson has, he could easily have 40 real life fantasy points.
Yeah.
Right. And the next best player be at 22. If you don't have him at captain, you're dead. You're just dead in the water.
And those raw points, that tweet that you were sharing, it makes total sense.
Right.
Those raw points are, just because he's expensive doesn't mean that he's not the right choice at captain sometimes. It's just
right.
You need if he scores you 60 points at the captain position, you're gonna need him. You're gonna need him there. You might as well just close the laptop. All right, talk to me about Darren Waller.
Yeah, man. And again, I don't even know if this is that bold either. He's probably going to be the second or third jockey as captain, but probably closer to 10, 12%, which is not bad when you've got a guy like Lamar, who's probably going to be close to 35. And I would expect possibly even higher. He could be 45% right, man. But anyways, Darren Waller, he could easily go off for 102 touchdowns again. Marlon Humphreys and Jimmy Smith are going to be out on the edges, so I'm curious as to who's going to be directly covering Waller. But Waller's an athlete. He's a great tight end, and I think that he can beat his matchup. I mean, there was a catch today. I don't even know what team it was, but it was amazing catch over amazing coverage. I mean, it's going to happen if you put the ball in the right spot and you got the chemistry with your quarterback. And I think that's something that Waller has. So I think it's a very good chance that he ends up with at least a touchdown, 80 yards. So if he can go for more than that, I think that he could be an optimal captain. I
think these are both the 2 highest scorers on the slate, but they're also the 2 most expensive. So if this is your first time watching, we usually don't go with the super chalk at captain. But right. I think you just have to consider it tonight a little bit more than usual, because there's so many unknowns that you can throw into the flex. I don't know that you can get too many of these guys together. If you put Waller at captain, yeah, you'll be able to fit Lamar in, and you'll have to punt probably twice. But Lamar and Waller, that's going to be tough. We're going to find that out right now, actually. You ready to build a lineup?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with Lamar at captain, and we're going to take a little bit more time with Lamar because I want to see there's going to be a lot of different levels to Lamar at captain. There's going to be your chalk for cash. There's going to be your mid-level, maybe single entry or a little bit safer, and then there's going to be your punt in a millie maker. And I think you can put him at captain in all of those. So let's pop in Lamar, and that immediately leaves us with 6.2K for all our positions. So let's grab our budget guy first. And I think we can go with DuVernay, don't you?
Yeah, I like DuVernay.
All right. So that's 2.6K. That helps us out a little bit. Now, do you want to go to the Raiders side of things? Where do you want to go next?
Yeah. Can we I guess let's go with Derek Carr.
All right, 9.8K. We might have to fade Carr, but let's try it with him because we're not going to get Waller in this lineup. Like, no doubt.
I mean, I don't mind Hunter Renfrow.
Okay, let's go Renfrow at 2.8K.
Some weird stacks: Lamar, DuVernay, Carr, Renfrow.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at these running backs. Do you want to try to fit in Tyson Williams? Do you want to get crazy with the Trenton Cannon? Do we want to touch any of these running backs for this lineup?
I think you can throw in. Let's throw in Tyson Williams.
Let's just see. Let's just see how it's going to work. I think Tyson Williams is going to be like 50% owned or 45% owned, but okay. So 9,400.
You know who that leaves you?
Mark Andrews.
Yep.
So we got a 4-2 stack here. I think that's fair. Now, this is just not. This is a tournament lineup. I think, right? I mean, with DuVernay.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is just it's still a little too chalky for a big. This is like a single entry. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, probably because it's Tyson Williams.
Hunter Renfrow will be like 10% owned. DuVernay will be like 7. You know, Carr will be 40, 35. You know, it's going to add up to quite a bit of dupes in a normal tournament. So this is probably a single entry lineup. And I would be comfortable playing this. In fact, I'd maybe play around with the only guy that concerns me is Renfrow. Let me see if there's anybody else at 3.2K. No, that's pretty much it. So you want to go with Renfrow here. But you can obviously switch out Williams. You can switch out Carr potentially. Let's actually do that. Let's switch out Carr. Let's see if we can. Oh, can we get? No, he's 10.8K, huh? Waller's 10.8K. Can we? Let's take out Tyson Williams. Let's go Darren Waller. Who does that leave us with? We have 6,200. Lat Murray, which I'm not into. Could go Brian Williams here. Brian Edwards.
Brian Williams.
Could go Brian Edwards. That leaves you Waller, Edwards, and Renfrow, but you don't have a quarterback. That's kind of a stupid.
It's an interesting stack.
I like the first one better. Let's do this. Let's hit optimize and see what happens. That was wow. Actually, that's pretty nice. Actually, it's pretty damn close to what we just built.
Yeah, but it's 2-4 the other way.
Yeah.
I don't like. I mean, I don't hate that. Like, I don't mind Henry Ruggs at that price, 5K. That's very interesting.
I mean, all you need is one catch from him for 60 yards and a touchdown, which we've seen him do.
Right.
So this is. I don't think that I would you play this in cash?
No. That's too much. That's too much of the wide or the pass catchers for Vegas for me.
So we don't have ownership, but like let's try to like build a cash lineup together. So when you say
Lamar, Lamar, Waller,
and Jackson, or I'm sorry, Andrews, which obviously we're not going to have all three of these guys. We just can't. I
mean, can you throw in Carr? I just want to see what it looks like from the pricing.
Yeah. So 3,600 remaining per.
So throw in DuVernay.
I think you can play DuVernay in cash, my opinion.
Yeah, and then throw in. Let's see. I almost said Patrick Ricard, to be honest with you, but I guess Hunter Renfro.
Yeah, Renfro. I feel like Renfro, his ownership is going to be inflated just simply because of these build types with Lamar at captain. 5,400 is that? Can we get Brian Edwards?
It's Ruggs.
Ruggs, yeah. So this is interesting. This is really hard to build with Lamar at captain.
Oh shit! This is the cash lineup we just optimized.
Yeah, this is the cash lineup.
Yeah, I mean that's what the optimizer just spit out, but I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. I mean, look, just hand build what the computer said to run. I was an idiot.
Let's do Waller. Let's see what Waller's like. So I'm gonna lock him in and then optimize. Okay. Duvernay, Renfro. It's the usual suspects here. It's gonna be the same guys.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe I'd consider going mid-tier pricing wise for captains.
Let's throw in Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Right, Hollywood Brown's priced nicely.
Yeah, he is. For his upside, he can also, like I said, I want to consider him playing him at captain more than in the flex. So Duvernay, Renfro, Waller, that's pretty solid. It's just Renfro's gonna end up in a lot of your lineups here.
That's way too much. Yeah, it's a lot of Renfro, man.
It's too much Renfro. What if we pulled out? I mean, who else is there at 3K? Nobody. Raiders defense. There's nobody. I feel like you'd have to come off a car. Let's go. Can we go Mark Andrews? And then that leaves us 3,800. Daniel a kicker? Hey, that's not bad.
Waller, Carlson. Yeah, that's not terrible. That could actually work too because if Waller's the best player and it is kind of a blowout, right? This is leaning towards that direction.
And you could do this too though. You could take Mark Andrews out, and if our boy Jacobs is healthy, you could throw Jacobs in.
Oh yeah, that's solid too.
That's pretty solid. Or you could go Drake, pull out Carlson, and that gets you. Does that get you Edwards? Get you Edwards.
Do me a favor real quick. I want to try something here. Just put fucking Ricard. You know what? No, put Jalen Richard in at one of the flex
Richard's
positions.
on IR.
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad. Patrick Ricard. Ricard. Let's do it then. Yeah.
Put him where?
Just in one of the flex positions.
Instead of like Duvernay?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Ricard. Yeah, I noticed that both optimizers, both Fantasy Cruncher and this one, don't really have the injuries updated too much. They're like so behind. All right, Ricard. That leaves us with 2,400. Do we want to bounce off of Drake? Let's bounce off of Drake and Brian Edwards there.
Bro, just take off, just uncheck Marquise Brown and optimize. I just did this right now. It's actually pretty solid.
Oh, dude. So if you find a $200 guy, if you punt at $200, you can make it work.
And I don't even know if that's that terrible of a decision because, I mean,
even if he gets zero.
Even if he gets zero, but I can still not have to play Hunter Renfro so much. Like that might be the way to go.
This is literally a naked Lamar stack right now.
Yeah,
like on a season long or like on a DFS like a main slate. Just throw Lamar in by himself and see what happens.
Yeah, well, but
you got three pass catchers from the Raiders,
and you can still make this work, right? I mean, even if you wanted to, you could drop Brian Edwards down to Duvernay again or whatever, and still probably come off of Ruggs or whatever. Like I don't know.
Come off of Ruggs. Let's try to get one more Ravens guy in here. So we got 5,000 left. I mean, you could go Ravens D. I don't think I'd want to do that. You could go Justin Tucker. I don't know if I want to do that. You could go all the way down to Duvernay. Now, what does that get us? Is there anybody at 2,600? just DuVernay and Peyton Barber. Trenton Cannon instead of Picard. Trenton Cannon instead
You
of
might be
Picard.
able to. I mean, if you put in. Oh yeah, I mean, you could do that. So go back to Picard
Yeah.
real quick, and then can you come off of? I think you can come off of. Scroll back up. There you go. Brian Edwards, and you should be able to get to Mark Andrews.
No, he's at
No,
9K.
not quite.
Yeah, he's at 9K.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
Anyways, I don't know if just a pure punt there is a terrible idea. And
I don't think so.
You know, again, I think Ricard could end up getting like a goal line handoff. You know, like I don't know, dude.
I think the moral of the story is, if you're gonna put Lamar Jackson at captain, you're gonna have to go Ricard. You're gonna have to go. Let's look at all these $200 guys. So you're gonna have to go Ricard, David Moore, Ingold, Proche. Oh, we didn't even talk about Proche. Wide receiver.
Yeah, he's like 202, right?
Or Eric Tomlinson, Foster Moreau. Like, you're gonna have to find, and even Willie Snead, or Trenton Cannon. You're gonna have to find one of these guys. If you put Lamar at the flex, expect to spend like $1,500 or less on one of your guys in the flex. And then in addition to that, you're gonna have to find like a mid-range guy who's gonna be like under 10% owned for tournaments. That's kind of what we're gonna have to deal with tomorrow if we put Lamar at captain, which I want to do. Let's do a Ravens heavy run. Let's do Ravens run attack, like a 3-3, real quick. So I want to put Tyson Williams here. Where's he at? Oh, there he is. T. Williams. I want to put him at captain. Let's put Lamar in the flex. And just for shits and gigs, just in case he actually does play, which I don't think he will, but Latavius Murray. Let's see what we can do with the remaining three. So we got to get at least either Derek Carr or Waller in here, right?
You should be able to get both and probably go Renfro. No, maybe not.
Well, or you can do
David Moore.
Alec Ingold.
Yeah.
Or Richard. Or no, not Richard. He's on IR. Don't play Richard, okay? Don't play Richard. Ricard.
Yeah, Patrick Ricard.
I mean, these are crazy lineups, obviously. I'm actually gonna take Latavius Murray out because I don't even want to mess with him. I might have 0% of all those newly signed guys. So 6,600. Let's see who we can fit in here. You can go Brian Edwards, but then you're looking at a 2-4. I don't want to do that. Ravens defense, something to that effect.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough building them on.
This is really tough, man. This is really tough. I hope some news comes out tomorrow. I hope definitively that Josh Jacobs is out tomorrow, because that really actually opens things up. Because now you can play these, these third string running backs on Vegas, like Peyton Barber at 2K. You can throw Peyton Barber at 2K and he gets 2 rushes for a touchdown and 4 yards, and you're okay. Do you want to build one more lineup before we send this out?
Yeah, sure. Let's run have we done a Mark Andrews captain?
No, let's do it. All right, Mark Andrews captain, optimize. Let's see what happens. Renfro.
Shocking.
It's always
this
Renfro.
Is actually a little bit different. Yeah. Tyson Williams, Justin Tucker. This isn't terrible though, man.
Yeah,
like
it's not.
I mean, I don't know if I want Justin Tucker instead of Tyson Williams. So instead of Tyson Williams, let's go to Brian Edwards.
And then we'll be able to go up from Tucker.
Yeah.
I really like Bryan Edwards. I think there's a solid chance he like I said, he can get you 7-8 catches here. So 5,900, Sammy Watkins or Henry Ruggs. That's actually really interesting.
I like Sammy Watkins, to be honest with you.
Sammy Watkins, okay.
I mean, Lamar, Sammy, Mark Andrews, Derek, Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfro. This is an interesting build that I don't hate.
It's an interesting build. This is, this is one of the builds that you hope you end up with when you optimize, but I think you kind of have to hand build some of these yourself. I just don't know that. I'm curious to see what Hunter Renfro, his ownership is going to be, because he fits so well in a lot of these lineups right at that salary. And, Tyson Williams actually, unless you plug him in, didn't show up really much at all. So I'm wondering if realistically his ownership is a little bit lower. And if that's the case, I'm going to want to jam him in because he's going to be the guy getting the ball most of the time. He's probably going to end up with 15 carries, don't you think?
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be the guy. I still stand by my, my hot take that Lamar Jackson's going to have more attempts than any of the other running backs. But yes, I think he has an opportunity tomorrow.
All right. Speaking of hot takes, what's your final score? Who's the highest scoring fantasy player?
Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to score I'm going to go with 45 fantasy points.
Oh my God.
Yeah, bro. No, I think he's going to rush for 120 and 2 touchdowns. And I think he's going to throw for 250 and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my hot take. I think the final score is going to be, let's go 38-27 Baltimore.
I'm going to go, this is going to be a little bit closer. I think I'm 31-27. It's going to be a game possibly in the fourth quarter. I think maybe you get, they're down by 14. Vegas is, in the fourth quarter, and slowly creep back somehow and find their way one possession game at the end, and they don't come through. But I think that Lamar will get you 30 fantasy points. I hope he gets you 45. That'd be good. That'd be great. I think he gets you 30.
He's your captain, man.
I think he gets you 30, but I think my bold take is DuVernay gets you 7-8 carries, get you 4 or 5 receptions. I think he's going to be your guy that's doing everything. And I think he scores a touchdown this week. DuVernay scores a touchdown. All right, man. Anything else to add?
No, dude. Good luck. Hope today went well. And on to tomorrow.
So actually, before we head out, are the Bears losing?
Yeah.
Did they lose?
They're for sure losing. Yeah.
Before we head out. Oh, they're okay. So guess what?
Wait, the Bears are what we thought they were. They're what we thought they were. Wait, the Bears are what
we played in the third game. Who the hell takes the third game like it's bullshit? Bullshit. All right, guys. We'll see you later. We'll see you for Thursday Night Football. Take it easy.